Hello, everybody, and welcome to this beautiful Wednesday, May the 6th, to the end of month PMP review, the Painters Motivating Painters Google Plus community. If you watch this and you don't know what I'm talking about when I say PMP, you should look up the Google Plus community, PMP. It is Painters Motivating Painters, as I said, and it's a fun community where we pledge models and we all show our progress work, and then when they're done, we post up the final pictures, and everybody offers advice and constructive criticism and all sorts of things like that to help you get your motivation on for hobbying and finishing your model, your army, your whatever you happen to be working on. Joining me this month, as with all the end of the month reviews, are my two co-hosts, Alicia and Kieran. Alicia, if you each want to introduce yourself in turn. Alicia, if you want to start us off.
Hello, everybody.
There you go. Good enough.
I got nothing to say. Sorry.
Fair enough. Kieran?
You just be in there is all that's needed.
Uh,
That's all.
There you go.
So, for those of you that watched Warhammer Weekly an hour and a half ago, well, we missed you. It's been
Absolutely.
a long time. But because Vince had said it's a lovely Wednesday, and it certainly is in the Warhammer world, I want to quickly stand up and share with you guys a little bit of something, and show you how lovely it is in Alberta, Canada, on this Wednesday, May the 5th. If you can quickly look outside my window today. This is the
May.
fun
No.
we've been having here.
no.
Oh, yeah.
No. That is why I stated to my husband that I will never live any further north than this. You do.
That is, you truly live in the frozen north. Yes, I mean, how does your dog sled fare in the summertime? I mean, do the huskies get too warm, or are they okay?
Yeah. Well, what we have to do in the summertime is we do have wheels that we can put on our sleds, and we also have to switch away from reindeers because they're less effective on their hooves in the hard packed summer months.
That makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Very good.
But I wanted to point that out just for the sake of hobbying. If anybody ever says to you, I'm hitting this block, I can't paint stuff because I can't go outside and prime or anything. I know that you've made a point of that before, Vince, but understand, there are times.
That is what a box and a warm can of spray paint and your bathroom is for. There's no time of year where priming is off limits. As long as you have anything, like if you have a fan in your house, that would basically be the requirement, I think. But we did not come to talk about priming. We came to talk about models. So let's jump right in. As per last month, we're going to go ahead and start. We're going to talk about a technique to start off the show. And we picked one model that we thought really was very emblematic of this technique and that used it really well. And so this month we're going to talk about basing. And my personal opinion is that a model that isn't based isn't done. A model sitting on a black base or just some paint on that base, forget it. It doesn't look finished. It looks lonely. But a good base can just take it to the next level. Even something on the base will make it look finished. A great base will complete your model in a way that not even good paint jobs can do. So, to jump right into that, we're going to go ahead and do some screen share. Actually, here, let me focus it up. There we go. We'll do a little screen share. And Kieran, you actually brought this to my attention, this model here. All right.
So while we're setting this up, I want to add in here that to build upon what you're saying, just like you would add multiple layers to a model to make it look more realistic, it's really important that you add multiple layers to the groundwork that model is on to make that look realistic as well. Anything short of that kind of used to bring our attention to in this month's thing.
I think that's a great point. Yeah, to think of basing like layering or highlighting on a model. Yeah, that's great. I hadn't thought of it in those terms, but I love it. Can you both see my screen okay right now? All right, am I sharing all right?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, it's visible.
Yep.
Okay, very good. So this is from Christopher Davis, and this is his Griffin. this is part of a suite of his pictures, and if we just kind of look at this, all the models he submitted have great basing work, but this one I thought was just exemplary. So here's kind of the whole piece, and you can see how great this looks from above, right? With the just how much of a real piece of terrain it looks like, with the rocks. And then, what's nice is, yeah, sure, the rocks are sort of the gray granite color, very classic, but at the same time, then he's got the browns and some dirt. He's got multiple colors of static grass, and then over here, you can just see different sort of tonalities applied all over the place. And then like there's little tufts. That's just great.
Yeah. So looking at that, Alicia, how many different textures do you identify on this base?
Probably about, as far as textures go, just different. He's got just a myriad, a complete collection. He's got at least 4 different basing materials that I can tell, and then he's got layers of paint on the rocks to make the rocks look different. This is almost a model in and of itself.
Absolutely.
It really is, yeah. You're right.
Yeah. And I love how he's got, yes, this is even just to focus on the rocks, they're done in sort of, when you look at it from the front, it looks like a fairly standard sort of dry brush of granite rock. When you look over here at the side view, you can see there's lots of brown tones in there and things like that, which really just spices up that rock. So he's clearly, got some different color variations on in here. It really ties together with the mud and the sort of loose gravel. This like tall, I don't know what this grass is called in the real world, but like this tall dry grass here, I love this stuff. You can get a whole bunch of this stuff for a couple, like $1. It will last you for your entire modeling life, because it's actually meant for like train kits, I think, is the main use of it. Yeah. But because you're building a tiny little base and not a giant train board display, one little pack of it is multiple armies for sure.
Furthermore, I want to talk about the rock and the fact of the texture that goes into that as well. Pretty common things that people use to represent rock are cork. We see that very commonly. That people will crumble up some cork and stack it on top of each other to give it that texture. Many people will use that dense insulating styrofoam and sort of distress that or rough it up a little bit and chunk up the shapes. Other people will just use, well, oddly enough, rocks to make that happen.
That's a good one.
But in every case, putting that extra texture in there and distressing it and roughing it up is important to do, so that you can get all the variances and have different layers to that to put in different color tones, like Christopher has done here.
There's actually one more way to do rocks that you missed. If you go to any area that has train equipment, they also will have like the basing materials there, but they have these molds, these just silicone molds, and you can pour your own plaster. So you can actually make rocks out of a much denser material, so it's not as heavy as a rock, but it's still heavy enough to balance out, a heavy model like this Griffin or, your other flying bases to keep them from flopping over.
Right. Yeah, I've seen that. They sell you a plaster called hydrocal, I think it is. It's just a powder that you mix in with water, and it eventually solidifies. So yeah, seen that stuff.
Absolutely. That's very, very good. And I think there's the only other notes I would make here is, everybody, the thing about these basing, about rocks and grass and gravel and things like this, is there's no great magic to this technique. It can be very hard to learn how to like glaze and layer right and do non-metallic metals and all these complicated painting techniques that can really take a long time to learn. This is using the simplest of techniques, right? To do basing stuff like this, it's glue and washing and dry brushing, and because nature is rough, right? And coating things in wash and dry brushing things makes things look rough, and so it's a really good alignment. And people think of like dry brushing rocks, but you can dry brush your grass tufts too. You got the little tufts of grass or your static grass. As long as you use a soft bristle brush, you can absolutely set down some static grass and then let the glue dry completely, obviously, and then come back a little while later, do some dry brushing on that to create tonal variations in the grass. And you'll be amazed the first time you do it how big of an impact it has. And it's just little things. Like I said, these are the simplest techniques. Everybody can do it, and it can take your figure to the next level. If I had one critique for Topher, all right, Topher, here's your one critique. You need to clean up this edge here. Like your edge is still just kind of chipped or whatever from being clearly from the gray dry brush, I would assume, probably coming down over the edge in this kind of a pattern. A final step I would do is just come back in that earth tone or whatever you wanted it to be and just do a nice little quick down the side just to even that out so you don't have like the weathered look there or chipped effect.
I knew that one of you would bring that up, but I thought it was going to be Alicia that would jump on it first, actually.
A minor thing. Very minor. This is amazing work. That's my minor critique.
No, there's one thing that I actually was annoyed more at.
What's that?
The primer on the that little plastic bit that holds the flying model up.
Oh, right.
Yeah. It's just one of those little things. I hate having any paint on that. Because if it was clear plastic, it would look so much better.
That's a trickier one for me. I'm kind of two minds on that. I don't buy, I don't know if it could be that what he was going for. Yeah, I guess it's just still just showing the primer. I have actually painted them gray before just to make them because to me that same neutral tone, if I wanted to just wash it out, I don't know, something about the clear when it's so reflective when it's clear plastic, it actually sticks out to me as much as if it were to be a bright color. So I mean, I can certainly see what you're saying. Let me say this: the right answer to me is never use those sticks. You shouldn't ever need to use that stick. You should be able to get your model onto a piece of the terrain in some way in most cases without needing that stick. Have a foot touching a rock and then pin it down, something like that. So I would say avoid the stick.
The solution that I've come to with that is a black stem, because black is less obvious than both of those things, either a white one or a really highly reflective, glossy, clear one.
I like to use painter's tape on mine, or not put it on the stick to begin with and let until I'm completely done with it.
Yeah,
I could see that.
All good.
All right. So throughout the go ahead. I'm sorry.
If we're gonna move away from this pretty shortly, there's one sort of theorizing I want to share with people out here, and that is that the reason this can be easy is because you spend your life around this stuff, whether you realize it or not. Every time you go outside and you wander around, unless you're in an absolute concrete jungle where you see nothing but sidewalks and high-rises, you're gonna see some of this stuff. The barrier that the mind has, though, to seeing it with this fashion and having multiple, 5 or 6 different textures in there, is that you kind of tend to look out and you see generally a lawn or a park meadow or a copse of trees. But if you look at it from a model's perspective and you isolate a 5-foot or a 10-foot square area and just spend some time and focus your vision on that, you will start to see all those different levels of texture in that small space.
That is, and I love it. Yes, amazingly good point. You're absolutely right. We sort of tend to construct the idea that it's just 5 feet of grass, right, when I look outside. But of course, when you look close, that is not at all the case, right? There's patches of mud and earth and pine cones sitting in there and little rocks jutting up and everything like that.
So next time you're out there, people, if you are ever out there in the wilderness of the park across the street, stand still for a second and just look in that couple of feet around you and imagine it that way.
I like it. That's a good piece of advice. Go outside remain. There you go.
And if you can't commit it to memory, take a picture. Take it home with you.
Yeah,
Let's
that's
go.
really,
There you
I
go.
mean, every human being in on the North American continent probably has a camera on them at all times now, right? So there you go. Okay, very good. Well, do we have anything else to say about that? Shall we start the model review?
Yeah, let's get into the reams of cool stuff we've seen this month.
Sounds good. All right. Good work again, Topher. All right, so let's scan back to the beginning of the month. I will say one thing here real quick at the start, since this has tripped us up before. Remember, we're only reviewing things in the end of month submit status. So if for some reason I missed your model, make sure you have it marked with the right status. If it should ever happen, just send me an email, and I will make sure to cover it in the next show, because I don't want to skip anybody's models. Always make sure you select end of month submit here when you submit your end of month submissions. Okay, so just wanted to say that. Yes, so we always want to make sure we're giving everybody their due. I believe the first one we actually had, because we went up to the Tree Man last month, was your Blood Knights. I think that was what started off the month. I remember that being the first thing. Now, was there anything you wanted to say about your about the Blood Knights, Alicia? I watched your video on these. I thought it was very good.
I honestly cannot remember if we did these last month or not. I thought we did, but they are actually a lot. They were actually a lot easier to do than I thought they would be when I first started. But the real trick to getting it is making the red in the armor and the red of the fabric look different.
I thought you had an interesting trick for that, because you actually used the same base red to start. You then just through wash layers and sort of then highlights actually separated them tonally, right?
Well, wash layers and I actually used two slightly different colors in the red in the highlight colors. With the fabric, I went up another level with the red. With the armor, I actually used two washes instead of just the one, and that helped.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
One of the nice part about VC models is that they're supposed to look a little aged, right? Like which you were capturing by, I think you dry brushed on like some steel type color onto the red, right? Just like have the worn armor, right?
Mm-hmm. The Necrotech dry compound.
Yep. And
really? So that's not just metallic that you've rubbed on there?
Mm-mm. No, it's a dry paint from Citadel. Necron compound.
Tell me about that stuff. How's that work?
It's like if you took, let's see, Ironbreaker. Am I going Cylon on this?
No, you're fine. You're not silent right now.
Okay.
I'm getting an echo on my mic. Okay. If it's like if you took Ironbreaker and dried the heck out of it. It's like I'm just kind of shoving my brush in there, and you can kind of see it's kind of chunky. If you just wipe half of it off, it'll coat pretty much anything you want with this kind of almost like metal shavings.
Okay, so let me ask you this. So if I was to use Ironbreaker, as you say, and just wipe most of the paint off onto a tissue and then go at the model, am I getting, aside from skipping that step, am I getting anything different out of that Necron stuff?
The only difference in the dry compound versus like the Ironbreaker is I tend to not have to wash it, rub as much Necron off.
Okay.
And I don't have the problem of if I didn't wipe enough off, it goes liquid on me. If you know what I mean.
Yeah, sure. Absolutely. Everybody, I think, has probably had the experience of dry brushing when they didn't quite take enough paint off the dry brush. And you get a nice streak.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. But yeah, that's cool. That's good how you use that to distress the red metal or the red armor. Good.
All right, good stuff. Anything else we want to say about this before we move on? I know we don't like to tarry too long on our own submissions.
No.
No, I mean, if you want to know how to do it, there's a video on my channel. Have at it.
There you go. I like it. Yes, you should look it up. You should subscribe to Alicia, and you should watch the video for this. It's good stuff.
Good endorsement.
There you go. Absolutely.
Okay, what else we got?
I did some more knights. Okay, cool. No shocker there. Assuming there's nothing anybody cared about with that, which is fine. We can move on. It's just that's been the story for 3 months. I don't think we need to tarry on it too long. All right, so this was from your husband. This was the completion of his Slon for his Lizardman army.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Okay. So
two good. Oh, you got something to say? Go.
Well, no, I was just gonna say I like the new Slon model. I have a bunch of the old fat frogs, the ones that were kind of like lazily drifting their arm up in the air, and I do very much like the new Slon model. I like his little skink sitting on his arm or whatever. He's fun. It's a good model. I like the stonework. The stonework is good. I would say, if anything, he could probably go for maybe another, just maybe one more dry brush on there of a slightly lighter color to set off that stone a little more. But, I mean, it's good. It's clearly stone.
And unfortunately, he didn't have a whole lot of light on this. It looks a lot better in person.
Is it? Well, that could be, yeah, without the light,
Yeah.
it washes out the whites, so that's very possible.
Okay. I was going to say a couple things about this. First off, cool effect of doing the glowy eyes on this toad. Like that. Especially because he's done the bright effect that spilled out over to the skin around the eyes, but he was careful to go back in and make sure that he had a hard line delineation around the orb of the eyeball itself, like within the eyelids, is what I mean. Often people who do this object source lighting, especially around eyes, fail to go back and reinforce that. So, good show on that bit.
Yeah, if I was going to say anything about it, I would say this. My only feedback on your eyes is that if I come back to here, or even like out to this, where I can still see it from here, it is the brightest spot on the model, right? So like I can see it from here. It's clearly like that. So it really pops. Kieran, by the way, I think I have echo line. I think we are getting echo off of you, just so you know. So you may want to adjust your sound a little there.
Okay. You're in control of that, actually.
Oh, that's true. I can't do that. Okay, I will do that in a second. What I would say is two things. One, he used the nilic oxide here, I believe, right? Is that what's making this color?
Nope.
Wow,
We
okay.
don't own nilid oxide. I wish we did.
Gotcha. She gets some nilic oxide. Well, it's a great representation of nilic oxide. Way to go. I like that he has the brighter colors. That's good, closer to the source of the light. Exactly what you said. Like there's a whiteness to the center of the eye, which is good. The only thing I would add is I would look at. My only note is two things. One, I would thin this way out and build this up with a little more layers because light doesn't completely cover what it's on. Right? There's a haze to the edge of the light where it becomes thin. And you can do that through like a thinner glaze effect around the edge. So at the edges, we should be getting like a really dull green with red showing through. And then I would extend out the area that doesn't show light around the outside of the eye as well. Because even if the eyeball is poking out, that bottom eyelid is big enough, it should be casting a shadow down below it where there's no light. Right? So like right under here should be like almost no light at all. Those are two little notes just if you wanted to take the technique to sort of up. That being said, I like the model. Like the bone is well done, and it'll certainly be a good centerpiece salon for the army.
Yep, enough said.
All right. Okay, now we got Paul K. He speed painted this for a GT apparently. So here is his icky icky. Uh, I guess that's probably a Slaughtermaster, right? That would be what that guy is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's funny he painted this before we did our Blood and Gore show, which is a shame. So it would have been a great submission for it. Good splatter effects, I assume, to get the dots here. He's probably using like a brush and then just fanning it with his fingertip at the model or something like that to get sort of splatter effect.
That would be my guess.
A stiff bristle toothbrush will do that for you as well.
Yep, that's absolutely. I like the toothpick over a stiff bristle toothbrush. That's my particular favorite.
Because you want ultimate control.
Yeah, and then you get a lot less paint on your fingertip too, which is always annoying if you then if you don't think about it or you think you have wiped off and you accidentally touch the model. That's a real mess.
Now, you and Paul had talked about on your little Blood and Gore show about these streaks of gore and viscera that he's got there. Tell us about that.
So, yes, that is Uhu glue, UHU glue, it comes in a yellow tube. I finally, ironically, got mine. I ordered it right after we had originally talked about it. It showed up the day after we recorded the show where we actually reviewed the model. So, right on time. You can't get it in the United States. Mine came from Thailand. I think it's probably from Asia, period. But it's basically it's a super glue that sort of dries at the exact right speed to be mixed. It'll take paint and things like that, and you mix it in with something that's a clear red paint or a watered down red paint. To me, a X27 clear red is a classic example, but you could also honestly use like Blood for the Blood God because it's got a very high transparency to it. Or just a red wash like a Carringburg Crimson would work fine. And then a little brown, something dark brown. It could be either like actual Chaos Black or an Agrax Earthshade or even a Druchii Violet if you want a purplish tone. You kind of mix that all together and then using a toothpick, not one of your brushes because it will ruin your brush instantly. You kind of dip it in there and swirl it around and then you just touch the model at various places, the 2 points you want to connect. And it will leave the strand behind and then stretch it up to the next point and then you can keep going. It's also a neat way to do saliva, spider webs, all sorts of things like that.
Yeah, it's cool. It's a cool toy to play with, I think.
Yeah. I think it looks great here. He used it to, I think he was not happy with how it came out on his Plague Bearer totally, but I think this is such a good example of it. I love the single piece of viscera hanging off the rusty arm blade, and I love the big stretchy piece up to his right arm out of like his gut area. That's just fantastic. There's also some out of his mouth, which looks really good.
The stuff that's coming out of the arm that he's holding up and off the mouth, I have no problem with. It's just how the movement is going. I do kind of like have just one little note about the stuff that's coming off the blade. Just because it's coming off at the blade at a weird angle, it's not really coming off via gravity. It's kind of defying gravity. If it was more downward pointed, or even if it was like flared upward, I wouldn't have a problem with it because then it would be going with the movement. But the way that it's going, it looks just a little weird, just a little off. But I mean, everything else is looking really good on the model.
All right, fair enough.
Yep, yeah, agreed.
All right, anything else we want to talk about with this?
Nope.
Nope.
All right, great. Yes, great Slaughtermaster, Paul. Let's see. I did my Lord. I'll show this for just a second, just because it was a very fun model to do, of my heroic killing blow Lord, killing some Chaos Exalted Hero guy. So it was fun to paint 2 figs for my one guy, which it's also hilarious to use on the table since he moves around facing this direction, and I actually then abut the rear of the Chaos Horse into the people he charges, which is humorous to me. So.
Hey, pause on this thing for just a second. I wanted to ask you.
Yes.
So after going back on the previous month and looking at the sepia that, can't remember the fellow's name, who did the sepia on his Griffin wings.
Yes.
I thought you might have wanted to try it on this thing. Didn't go for that,
No, that's a good question. All my pegs are just pure white, and so I didn't want to break theme even for the Lord's Pegasus. So I like the pure white look of the peg. That being said, I have used that technique like crazy on normal horses. So like if people look through some of my pictures and you see a horse that is strangely sepia colored, with probably some like white tufts for his fetlocks and such, I guarantee you that's probably the technique I used. So there you go. That would be my answer.
Fair enough. Yep.
Okay. Again, not Terry too long. I just thought he was fun. Victor gave a nice little wrap-up of his Bretonian Yeoman. Some of these are from Game Zone, I believe, which are great alternate minis for the Yeoman figs. Some of them are much more active than the old, than the GW Yeoman, which are aging and are mixed in here, I believe. Like I think that is a standard GW Yeoman, whereas one of these guys is the Game Zone minis, I think.
Yeah, I think you're right about that. Exactly. All the ones on the bottom are stock Yeoman, and those two on the upper right, those would be alternates. I like the idea of doing the this one on the uppermost right. Is that Appaloosa style? Is that what we call that?
Woof, horse names, I don't know. I think this one's a painted horse over in the top left, but this could be that.
Alicia, you got any horse knowledge you can share with us? Just from my curiosity.
I don't dare say anything like that on YouTube because if my mom ever saw and I named it wrong, she'd kill me. So I plead the fifth.
Okay, Alicia's mom, I want you to comment here and help me out.
Absolutely, yes. We expect a comment from Alicia's mother. But just we've touched on this before, and I think it's just worth reinforcing. When I look across the sweep of his yeoman, let's go back to this picture. It had all of them. Look at how wonderfully different those are. Those are all in brown tones, right? So he didn't even go to like black or gray or white horses. All in brown tones. But look at how wonderfully different each of them is. Slightly different shades and washes used. They each look like they have different furs and the painted horses and stuff like that. It's just he did a great job of making them look like, distinct individual creatures. Nice coloration, tonal changes on the muzzles and around the fetlocks and on the lower legs and things like that.
Yeah, you bet.
Because
horses come from different moms.
Yes, exactly right. Yeah, they're not clones, right? Yes, they're not all just clone horses that have been sort of factory line produced. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Speaking of the legs, like these alternate models, the way that the horse is attached to the base, doesn't that look like the bottom hoof is broken?
It is this like right here, this like kind of really jutted angle. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, because I thought they bent this way.
That is a very serious bend. That horse.
Not like this.
That horse may be getting shot actually after this charge is completed, because of his unfortunate broken leg. But they certainly do have more momentum and action to them than the GW equivalents. That's for sure.
Yeah. They did the Lord of the Rings horses in this very same style, and I don't know why that never translated over to Warhammer. I guess it did a little bit in the Wood Elf horses eventually, but it took quite a while for that to come around.
Yeah, I think a lot of the horses that we're riding on are still so old. When you think of your Bretonian horses, I mean, the last time they were printed was 6th edition, right? And so it's many years back.
Yeah, so these are 1998 at best.
Yeah, the Yeoman. Yeah.
The Yeoman.
Yep. Well, here's hoping. All right, so good stuff. So here we have from Rasmus7814, and he did some. I don't know if they're pterodons or ripperdactyl. Maybe he says. Does he say? Ripperdactyls. Yeah, the Ripper Dipper Doos. All right. Always a fan of the Rippers.
Yeah, I don't see this a lot, but I do kind of like the orange-purple combo on more things, especially when we're talking about fantasy creatures. I dig it.
Oh, this is his frog token, I assume,
Oh yeah,
for what unit they mark. That is adorable.
that's very important.
Yes.
So yeah, purple and orange. It's very striking, and I think it's appropriate in the fantasy world. It doesn't offend my color combo sensibilities like it might normally in the real world.
Agreed. Rasmus, if you watch this, or Victor, if you watch this, do you two know each other? Because I could swear these are the Ripperdactyls that Victor fought in his last battle report with his Bretonians. Because I think they had this color scheme. So if you two know each other, I'd be interested if these are the ones that showed up in that battle report. Um, but yeah, I agree. I like the color scheme. It's all very bright. It's one of the fun of Lizardmen, right? Is that you can get away with colors like this and have it be a legitimate choice. If you painted your your human empiremen blue and painted them orange and purple in their colors, that might seem a bit strange, but that's not beyond the pale at all for Lizardmen. So that's nice. I think if I had one note here. The only note I have is that the wings are big. There's so much of this model are those big Ripper wings, and they're this large flat surface. It doesn't look like they have too much innate texture to them. I haven't seen one of these up close, admittedly, but so I feel like this is a good example of where you can create some texture, and you can do that through some layering. Like what I'd like. A wing like this that's leather, it's going to stretch, right? And so what you want to do is create tonal variations toward the center of the wing where it's sort of the most stretched away from the bones by kind of lightening the color, right? And darkening it nearest the bones where it's bunched up. If you think of a balloon, okay, like if a balloon, look at the point where the balloon is the most stretched, it will be very thin and lighter colored, and the part where it's bunched up, say near where your tie is, the bottom will be very dark, and that's kind of the thing here. So you can make the wing have a lot more action to it rather than sort of being a color by faking that stretchiness of the skin. And it's actually not too tough at all to do. I mean, it's just literally you highlight it like you would anything else. You just start from a darker color and go up to a lighter color.
Alicia, if you've seen these around the house, I wonder if you can answer that question. Do these wings have segments to them or much texture to be dealt with?
I haven't actually looked at them because Josh painted these while I was gone. He did a lot of his painting while I wasn't at home.
Mm-hmm. And then after they're painted, you don't look at them anymore?
After they're painted, he hides them in his box, and I'm like, I'm not going to go digging just to just to rip you a new one.
All right. I guess I was just kind of imagining that you would be sitting there wrapped at the end of the table while these guys are having their games against one another.
No, I'm
Probably not
in here
so.
painting, unfortunately. I got to paint. And honestly, the Rippers have not come out very much.
Sad.
Well, I'm sure once they get over 1,000 points with their new game, the Rippers will be quickly in the mix. Because who doesn't love the Ripper Dipper Doos?
Or love saying it.
Absolutely.
Oh yeah, that's just fun to say.
I do love saying it. That's just for Reef there. Gone but not forgotten, Reef. All right. Very good. Good work there, Rasmus. Okay. Next up, we got Joseph, and he finished. He does say here, finished his graveyard other than bases. Okay, so very good. So that tells me he's planning to go back and do the bases. So I'll take your word for it.
Well, and if you haven't done them yet, Joe, then take our advice about what we started off this and do multi-layers, multi-textures.
Right. Yeah, start by just laying down some mud and then throw some gravel on there. Throw some dead tufts of grass every so often, right? And then a big rock. There you go.
It actually is a lot harder to base once you've got the models on there. Because, you don't want to throw all the mud and grass and everything up onto the guys.
Yeah, you have to be much more careful, that's for sure.
Yeah.
That being said, I like his color choices here. Very, very classic graveyard with that sort of von Karstein blood red. I like it.
Similar to Alicia's Blood Knights, really.
Absolutely. You didn't happen to be doing that for Joe, or you weren't painting his Blood Knights, were you? I see these Graveguard are being overwatched by this thing. This 4K machine. Yeah, thank you, a Dreadnought. I couldn't think of his name.
Watch out!
Yeah. Good stuff. I like your freehand work on the banner. That's good. I would say it looks like, I'm going to guess the letters are painted, just from looking at it and seeing what looks like brushstrokes in there.
I don't think so. Actually, it looks like he just ran out of ink. Like, to me, they look like pen marks.
All right.
You know how when you're going like with the pen, and sometimes like you'll hit it wrong, and it just won't give you ink.
Sure.
Well, if he's got one of those brush pens, like I do, then you can get variation in quite a bit of variation in the way that you do your scripture. You guys use this, or do you just use the hard tip ones?
I use the hard tip micron pens. That's
Micron.
That's my story. Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. So what I'm saying is the same people that make those make brush tip ones that have some softness to them.
Yes, they do.
And you can certainly do this kind of stuff with those. And he's probably used that same kind of pen to go in there and mark up his eyes and nostril holes on the skull.
Absolutely.
Although I want to say I have this one criticism about the eyes is, unfortunately, you've made him look like he's from the next dimension. With the shape of the eyes. Yeah, a little too classic Martian looking, I think.
Alien skull.
Yes, I'm not, as our old friend Sulakis or whatever his name is from Ancient Aliens would say, I'm not saying it's aliens, but it's aliens. I like this unit. I think it's a good looking unit. I think that you can go not as bright on like the bones and skulls of vampire counts. Like he's using a very sepia bone color for everything, and I think that's fine when it comes to VC. I think they should look dirtier, for they are the lesser undead beneath the Tomb Kings, of course. And but good red, like good red transitions and highlights. I think if there was going to be one small thing, I would say it's that, and maybe this is just a picture washing it out, so that's always possible. If it is, Joe, I apologize. But I don't see a lot of tonal variation in the swords. Like, you picked out the metal here, like on the helmet and such, but then I look at the weapon and it looks very, like, pretty monotone. Like, maybe this is one color of gold with a slightly lighter color of gold running uniform up the blade. And I feel like I want to see some more tonal variation here on the blade, because they look very flat.
Yeah, definitely. My one note for him would be, as you point out, he's done some nice work in the helmets and pulling out like how the wings on the helmets are popped out. I don't see anything pulled out on any of the chest pieces, at least in the front row. It looks like the chest pieces are just bare black, which, if they're black lacquer, that's fine, but you should try and even just rub a little bit of the metal color, because lacquer that old does not stay. It chips, it wears. There are places where it's going to be a little bit shinier. So don't be afraid to kind of pull some of those hard edges out to make sure that we can see that it is metal armor that they're wearing.
I'm gonna give him the benefit of the doubt that I think that's photography, because if we look at the bottom edging of each of those plates, you can see that he has done that.
I'm looking at this one guy on the end, and it looks like he's got like the chainmail coming out like a beard, but I don't see anything there. But then again, like I said, it could just be the photography. But if it's not, that's my 2 cents. If it is, ignore me.
Fair enough. You have to give us the answer, though, Joe, if you watch. Is this paintbrush, pen, brush pen? We want to know. Inquiring minds want to know. What did you write this with? All right. Good stuff. Moving on. Got some chameleon skinks from again from Materum. I think these were the last sort of lizardmen he painted.
Yep.
They are very flesh tone, which I must admit I find weird. I like most of his paint choice colors for most of his army. I like the red slan, like the saurus, the other skinks he did, all very colorful. I think they're good. These guys look very flesh tone to me, which almost seems strange.
Yeah, they did come out kind of fleshy looking in the pictures. They've got more of a they look a little bit more like yellowy orange in person. If that that tells you anything.
Sure.
Okay.
Because he was going for like the whole orange and blue theme for all of his army. But he was trying to make these guys look a little dirtier. Because the funny thing about the chameleon skeeks is half of them just have frogs tied to them.
And I think that's awesome.
And that's how they're being chameleons.
Other people strap on armor. These guys strap on frogs. Makes total sense.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, especially the hats. Frogs make good hats.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
I assume that's so they can hide underwater and look like a lily pad or something with a frog resting on it. I mean, I assume that's the play there, right?
Yeah, that makes sense to me. Yeah, sure.
They're really good at infiltrating ponds. Beyond that, though, they're in trouble. God forbid they ever need to infiltrate in a forest. Yeah, so it could just be the color washing that out. Chameleon skinks are a tall order. They're tough because how do you paint chameleon? Right? Like, part of the thing of them is that they're not supposed to be seen. They're supposed to literally fade into the background. So it's kind of a tough thing to do in general.
I think to paint them properly, you just do a very nice textured base and 2 footprints in that base, and done.
Absolutely.
Actually, Josh's idea is to get a bunch of bases, put some bush and like other flocking materials on there, and just have little blowguns sticking out of the bush.
You know, he made that joke. I think that's genius.
That's
like,
okay.
I think, yeah, I think having if I had a unit of 10 or something, just to throw out a number, I would absolutely have 2 of them just be bushes with blowguns. Like, because that's great. Like, it's mixing stuff like that in. I have a wood elf unit where one of the glade guard is just a tree with like a bow and arrow sticking out of it. So
yeah,
sure.
Why not? Okay. I think this is an opportunity. Again, sometimes when we critique these models, I sort of want to keep in mind that a guy doesn't want to spend 7 hours on a model, but I just at these chameleons, I think that you could get a little bit creative with the frogs, especially, and really throw around a lot of different color tones within this, and that would speak to the chameleonishness of it if you are willing to use a more broad color palette and use lots of different colors.
I mean, that's good feedback. But good work on the
Those are my 2
I
cents.
see that coming along. I'm happy about that. He's beginning the road. We can see some mud, some grass. I like it. All right. Well, we look forward to seeing him on the table there, Myth. Okay. Skeleton flower with a little dark Eldar homunculus.
I'm glad you're pronouncing that and not me.
I can't find it. There it is, though.
These are particularly hideous models, but he did a great job with it. I like his. He has very. So this is an example of what I would call, and I please don't take this as a pejorative because I absolutely do not mean it that way, but I would call this a very cartoony style, and by that I just mean like his lowlights are very low and his highlights are very high. So like if you think of 2-dimensional cartoon drawings, they have to have very extreme highlights to make them look 3-dimensional. And that's what's been done here as well. And I think it looks great. I think that's a perfectly valid painting style choice. And I love to see people use different types of styles. Like when you look at the difference between the low blue tone of the cape or of his skirt, dress, whatever he's wearing here, and the high blue tone, that's all like, that is very dark blue and that is near white blue, right? It really makes the model stand out. It has a very distinct look to it.
Yeah, I'm in favor of that in some aspects as well. when we look at the highlights on just about anything that you look around at, if you're under some intense light, it almost does come to white. Like every color you look at almost does come to white on sharp edges of it.
Absolutely.
So he's working towards that there, and I think that takes some good skill to do. So good on you. And also, lots of textures on the base.
Now look at that. Got some rock and some grass. Absolutely.
Now he's done that with the crumbled cork by the looks of it.
I think that is correct. Yeah.
I think it's nice that he's tried to work some glow effects in there as well. Going back to my last month's topic.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes, the sort of power sword and the gem here and the whatever their magic stick is. I don't know what their rules are, but I think they have probably some kind of power sword and then a plasma e-stick. I would guess. Probably some kind of pain-inducing thing. They're Dark Eldar, so everything has like pain in the title.
We're so good at 40K, aren't we?
Yeah, absolutely. If you're looking for 40K knowledge, you came to the wrong place. Okay. Good work there, Skeleton. I like it a lot. I don't know what feedback I give it. Interesting or good choice, very unique style to it. I like it. And it's so funny to go from this to this. This is a great transition. So we had the very extreme sort of color variations, right? And then we're going to come here to All Elves Are Dark, right? Where we have much less extreme color changes going on. Like he has very subtle tonal shifts in his colors. So like looking at the cloaks and such, right? It's still certainly there's still a transition to that green, but it's a much less extreme transition.
Yeah, I agree. It's one unfortunate thing though is we look at this horse that's facing us here on the right side, and it's transitioned from hair to body tone to leather, both in the saddle and on the head and the neck, and the ropes that go around the neck. It's not enough delineation there. That's what I'm going to give you about that one. The one on the left, however, because that's a different color horse, is a much better choice and it's more appealing to look at.
Yeah, yeah. You can see use the same leather color in both cases. It's just this horse happens to be in much different shades. This more of a sort of I guess khaki kind of color, and then the much nice rich red ruddy brown tones, the auburn for the hair. And yeah, the difference is really stark when you look at it like that right next to each other.
Yeah, so I guess in summary, just that one horse doesn't work.
Yes,
I would say.
But I think it's great to go from one of those to the other. They're very different styles, and yet both look good and have their own. They both stand out as unique, and I like that. That's one of the great things about it is that you have to find your own style, and both are perfectly valid choices to represent reality, as it were, in the way you see fit. Also, just to connect back, good basing choice here. There you go. That's a nice shot. We can see he's got some dirt and some rocks and some grass. So good job there.
Yeah, and I think overall, when I look at this unit, and again comparing back to the last entry that we looked at, it's a much softer. Like that's kind of the word I want to use to how I feel about looking at this unit. It's a softer painting style, and that's attractive. It's comforting.
I like it.
Looking up at one of the close-up shots of this, not that one. It's like on an off angle, the picture. That one. There you go. Yeah. Now, this might be a little nitpicky, but that's what I do. I see spray and dots, and that might be in the finish or whatever he sprayed on at the final stage. You might want to hold whatever you're spraying it with just back a little bit further to prevent the dotting. But that's, like I said, tiny little nitpicky thing, because I mean I can't even tell until you get that close.
Yeah, if you watch Elves, I'd be curious as to what caused that, because I can see it too. And I've had that same thing happen before when I matte sprayed when it was too cold. Like if you use your varnish spray and it's too cold, you can get that sort of chalky effect out of it. So I'd be curious if that's what happened or if it's something else. So tell us in the comments. I'd like to know. Because if that's what happened, well, that's unfortunate. It's always when I had that happen, I was like, oh well, that's fun. Ruined a model on the last step. Not that it ruins the model, but it makes you feel like that, right, when you notice it. You can reactivate the varnish by applying, if you very quickly go in and then apply another type of varnish to it, you can actually get it and reactivate it. If you go on YouTube, you can watch videos there's a couple videos around. I know Dr. Faust has one about how to deal with it and remove it by using a new varnish to reactivate the old stuff, and it will clean up that chalkiness, if that's what happened. So, there we go. All right, anything else to say about this unit?
Nope, not at the moment.
Nope.
All right.
We're
I'm
good.
sure they're ready to ambush and kill a lot of war machines and harass people and make them crazy.
I would expect no less.
Yes. Cetra that I did. I only focused on this big for one moment. There's only one thing I want to talk about here, and that is I want to talk about the power weapon effect, which is what I used on the edge of Cetra's blade here to to represent the blade of Petra, which is like this sort of thing that cuts through armor and such. Sounds like a power weapon to me. Blade of Light. And so this is basically half of a power weapon trick. So if you're ever trying to make like a power weapon or something like that, you want to run from like pretty much white to pretty much black. And if you have a double-sided sword, he doesn't here. He only has one. But if you had a double-sided sword, you would then run the same color transition on the opposite side of the blade. And what that'll make it do is it'll actually make it look like it'll add movement even though the thing is static and make it look like it's, sort of a vibrating power weapon or something.
Yeah.
Okay.
What set you off there? Vibrating?
I think, yes.
Tighten up on there again. I want to offer up something that actually is maybe a critique that you can use when you do your next challenge.
Oh, please do. No, I absolutely welcome all critiques. Yes, I was not trying to cut it short.
By the shape and curve of this blade, you did the right thing by at the very point of it going white and then coming through and getting dark along the way. But the darkest part, honestly, should be not the very bottom end of it. That should come back out to white for the other end of the tip. Your darkest part should be in the low point of the bend of that curve.
Right here.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah,
I think that should be the darkest, and then start coming back out.
Yeah, that's absolutely a fair critique, and the right way to do it when you only have one blade. When you have two, right, and then they run opposite to each other, you don't notice that, or like that can work better because the dark is then opposing the light, and the contrast is the strongest, right? Whereas if you mid-light point it, then you need to double dark point it on the other side, basically. But yes, that is absolutely a fair critique and something that you're absolutely right on. It should basically go light to mid to darkest and then back out to here to light again.
Yep, I think so.
Yep.
Okay. That's my thing.
Hey, no, you're absolutely right. Good catch. All right, we already looked at Topher earlier. So we already talked about this a lot. We didn't look at the BSB. The Griffin is in the same selection. I just wanted to take a moment to point out the banner because I thought he did great freehand work on this banner. I like it a lot, and so I just wanted to say I know he customized this bannerman from scratch with, like, I believe this is green stuff on the side here with these little tassels and everything. And I thought he just did a really nice banner, and I wanted to call it out because I think it's good work.
Yeah, I agree too, and I think he's got some. He's trying to do his night sky, and he's not only has he done the silhouette of the tower very sharply, but his color choices in doing the night sky to show some dark clouds is really good too. Give it up to him. It's good. But my one critique for him across the board after looking at all this, if I can, is we need more armor definition. It's a little too, it's just all too bright in the armor definition, I think.
Yeah, I would agree. I'd like to see some more. I know he's going for a very clean look, and I know this is a common thing with high elf players. They don't like to dirty up their armor. They like it to just be this bright, gleaming, endless silver. But I would still like to see I would like to see these cracks be black, right? And then just have, it's annoying because then you got to go through and pick out each individual scale if you want to do it really right, if you want to take it up to that level. Certainly you could dry brush, but you know, for a bannerman like this, it's probably worth picking out each individual scale.
Yeah, and I think you're right that the high elf guys want to do it bright and clean, but there's still got to be that depth of color in there. You know, you're taking lots of attention on your bases, and it should be reflected in the depth of colors that you choose to do that armor as well.
Yep.
Even with bright and clean armor, there should be shadow.
Yeah. Now you're a Cylon, by the way, Alicia. While you fix that, we will move on. All right, the Gonk with his some Bestigor, some Tzeentch Legion Bestigor.
How do we know they're Tzeentchy? Did he tell you?
That's what he said here, yes. Bestigor for Tzeentch Legion.
Oh.
That being said, I would have liked, if they are Tzeentch Bestigor Gonk, I would like to see some like pinks and bright blues and stuff in here. You know, Tzeentch loves color. He is a fan of the rainbow. He has a Skittles attack. And I have to think even his Beastmen would inherit some of that, even if they're... I'd love to see somebody tackle dirty pastel colors. But I think these are some of the... I think some of these are the older Beastmen models, right?
Yeah, they're probably metal ones. The second one from the back of the conga line is actually off of a chariot. The one that's not robed.
Mm-hmm.
That makes sense. Yeah, so I think it's out of their metal cast line probably.
That would make sense because they all seem to have that line to hold them in place.
Yeah, they just slot into the base.
Yep.
Yeah.
I think he's probably using... So do we think he's using the cracked earth paint here for the base?
Oh, definitely.
Oh, he is. Yep. Yeah. I just bought some, as an aside, I just bought some artist brand crackle paste the other day. I'm just trying it out for the first time. And what I've noticed about it is that it only really works well if you lay it on real thick, whereas I think this technical paint by GW seems to get you an effect even if you put it on thin.
I will say if you really want the crackling, you have to lay that GW paint on really thick. Yeah, like if you just do it thin, you'll get a little bit of crack here and there. But if you really want like the crackle effect, you got to coat it.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I think what I noticed here about these things first off was that he's using bronze weapons, so that's a novel idea. You know, if we think about bronze being a more primitive sort of weapon material than steel or iron, because you can't imagine that these beastmen would have access to the best of forges in the old world. So I think it's a good nod towards that, and it fits in nicely with their kind of thematic sensibilities.
Absolutely. Yeah, I like that. That's a good choice. I would even take it. I love the choice of the bronze, and I would take it a step further and say, I'd love to see some Nilic oxide on there, Gonk, and hit that with some rust, some oxidation effect. If that would be what it is proper.
Yeah, I agree with that. That'd be fun to see on there.
But really, I like these Beastmen. I'm a fan of the older Beastmen. I really am. And I think you did a good job here. The skin tone on them is really good. I like a nice ruddy, dark-complected Beastman. Like, these guys are outdoors all the time, right? So they should look like they are living in Jersey, just on the beach, coming out, broing out, just getting their tan on. And I think you nailed that really well here.
Good. Everybody around the herdstone. It's going to be a good time.
That's right. Beastmen need to just constantly be running at the enemy, asking them if they even lived. All right. This is something I did this month. I built myself a new gaming table. And I wanted to stop on this from all important pork rinds were, of course, immediately installed. It's very essential. I just wanted to take a moment to talk about this and say, if anybody's interested in building a gaming table, I won't go into great depth here. I might put together a video on it sometime separately. So I'd love to see if there are people interested in it. This table is solid as a rock. I could jump up and down on it. Wouldn't hurt it. And I built this in an afternoon, myself and a buddy. Took maybe 4 hours. And, I mean, it took longer to finish it and such afterward. This is pre-finishing. But it's a pretty quick thing, and it's not too complicated. So I'd love to see if people are interested, because it's cheap, it's fast, and I'm very happy with this table. So just throwing that out there.
It looks pretty sound. Yeah, for those that don't have to fold up a table and put it away, and they got space for something permanent, I think that looks really good.
Well, and the neat part here
as well.
Is that actually this is completely disassemblable in about 5 minutes.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah, the top of that lifts right off, but it will not move at all while it's down. Like, it has to come straight up. That's the only way it'll move.
Okay.
So you can lift the whole thing off. Now you got to have a place to actually put the table. So like I have to, but it goes into 3 pieces rather quickly.
Well, then I like it better.
Okay.
Yeah,
okay.
that's
there
cool.
you go. Winning you over. All right. So tell me, people, if you're interested, I'll do a video just on it, and I'll walk you through it and what I did to do it. It was pretty simple.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, sign me up. I'm interested.
All right. Very good. Here we have, I think it's appropriate to do these two in order. So here we have Victor with his Harlequin Solitaire, which is just beautifully done. These are the new Harlequin models, which are gorgeous models. And of course, the big thing here was the use of his diamond pattern, his cross-hatching pattern, which you can see on his leg and up on his shoulder here, or pec/arm, whatever. And then as well, the black to purple transition. I think he did a video on both of those this month. And so you should check out Victor's channel if you want to see how he did this guy. He has a 3-part series on this guy, as well as broken down techniques on how to do the black to purple transition and the cross pattern. So Victor will really set you up. And I want to take a moment to thank Victor for doing all those great videos. They're really fantastic.
Yeah, he's got a lot of good things going on here. Something that I'll leave for Alicia is the glowy runes down at the bottom. But he's also on the palm of this guy's outstretched hand. He's tried to mystify you with a few little extra paint splotches in there representing something cosmic. So that's really creative. I like that idea a great deal.
Yeah, I took it to be his, because I think these guys have some kind of like force field or chameleon effect, right, where they go into stealth or something. Like that's what this little thing coming off his back is representing, like him coming out of the hex camo stealth mode. Like he's jumping out of it. And I think that's what these little squares are meant to represent. So I like that he has a unified color palette of him kind of the back and the front of the hand, right? Of that, like kind of what's still coming out of the stealth or using the energy field, as it were. Yeah,
I think this is a fantastic set of models across the board for the hobbyist, because your color palette is so broad and immense with something like this, and it invites you to play around with unique things. So that's a win for Games Workshop in creating models of this nature.
Yeah, it was I don't play 40K, but I will admit this was a great release. I even thought about picking up a box just to hobby on them, right? Because they look like so much fun.
Yeah, why not? You can make a Dark Elf Assassin with that guy anyway.
Oh, totally. Yes, he'd be a fantastic Dark Elf Assassin in a fantasy army. And also, just to tie in again, good basing work. You know, I think some of this comes with the guy. Like I'm pretty sure the big rock is what he comes with, but He had the mud and the snow, nice mixture, the highlighting to have some glowy runes on the base, all that kind of stuff down here. So.
Oh, actually, you know what? Something caught my eye about his Harlequins in that snow. It looks like it's the same texture as static grass. So it's. I wonder if that's exactly what it is. It's just white static grass.
You know, I don't know. Victor, what are you using to do your snow? Where's the snow tutorial, buddy? Tell us about your snow. We want to know.
I thought it was just cotton. Like.
Oh, that could be too. Maybe could be just like picked apart cotton.
Yeah, that's what it looked like to me.
I think there's some photos of something he did later in the month that ties in on that a little bit closer. So maybe we'll leave it for now, and if we see it in a different picture, we'll try to decipher.
Sounds good.
Okay.
Alicia, any final thoughts?
No, you guys kind of horned on everything. I've got nothing. It's awesome. That's pretty much it.
You got to jump to it sooner on the next one then.
I'll jump in somewhere. I don't know.
You're first on this one. Go.
So yes, this is Rasmus. Yep. Go right ahead, Alicia. Take it first.
All right. I think so, he's basically went off of Victor's tutorial on how to do like the checkerboard pattern. Good try copying Victor's technique. Way to go. I think I would have made the checker pattern a little bit bigger though, because covering the entire model with a checker pattern, doing it so small, is almost distracting. It's too much texture, which is kind of weird. I know it's too much pattern. But if you'd made them just a little bit, if you made them bigger, I don't think it would be nearly as distracting. But yeah.
I think if you look at the shield alone, that's very sharp. But the difficulty that I'm sure that he endured when he was going through this is how do you maintain the shape of your diamond pattern when you're changing surface shape? Like when we go back onto the trailing caparison of the horse, and you start to have it folding over on itself, I mean, you got to change everything about your diamond pattern when you're going through that on the painting surface, because you don't get to paint it flat and then fold it over, right?
Right.
You have to change that with it. So hell of a challenge. I think I would have shied away from it if it was me.
This is a bold choice, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. So brilliant effort, but yeah, unfortunately, once you start to change shape and have folds in there, it just loses its shape. Too bad.
I think you did a great job on the pattern overall. Like to do it in that fashion, to do this many tiny diamonds. My God, man, you deserve an award for endurance. Like he even did it on the knight, right? Like you can see this is actually the knight's armor coming down here. So I mean, this is really, really, really going the extra mile on a fig. So way to go, buddy. What I would say is I found in doing my Bretonians that when you do a complex pattern, it's good to complement that with blocks of solid color and intermingle those and have like cross pattern it out and have one or two of the blocks be the pattern and have two be solid color. And I think that then would balance out what Alicia's speaking to. So if you want to do a small diamonds, that's how I would attack that.
But as an exercise to explore and try this out, pretty sharp, really.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially since I think this was his first try doing this. So man, way to jump right in feet first and really do a great job on your first try. I do not think I would have done that well. In fact, let me take that back. The first time I tried a checkerboard pattern on one of my horses, I threw that horse in the garbage. So there you go. That's how well my first one came out. So you are leagues ahead of me, sir. Way to go. All right. And then I did some more nights. I'll show this guy for just a second to talk about something we mentioned earlier, which was micron pen and then patterning. So here's kind of what I'm talking about. This guy has this pattern up top, which is meant to be like a dragon scale type of pattern. And then that's finished out with the scrolls that are hanging underneath. And obviously none of that is actually there on the horse. It's just a sort of flat surface. And then the Micron pen is used for all the writing and such to match up with the most ridiculous banner in the history of banners.
Yeah, that's a creative idea to turn the bottom trailing parts of the horse's barding into scrolls. I like that idea. It's very cool.
Yeah, so my little scroll knight. I was happy. I figured he likes words. He's got a book and scrolls everywhere, and so hey, why not just take it all the way? And I love that he's blind with a little kid on his back. That's just hilarious to me. That this guy decided, I can't see, but I should still be the bannerman, and the right way to go about this is to strap a 5-year-old to my back and have him tell me where to ride. It's a rough life in Bretonia, apparently.
Well, you know it is.
Yeah.
I mean, have you seen their peasants?
Yeah, you don't want to strap a whole full-size human behind there because then you're just putting too much strain on the horse.
Right, sure, absolutely. So, the little kid, you can just ride on your shoulders.
Yeah.
It could be a midget.
That is fair. It could be. So here I think these are Bane thralls. Is that right?
Maybe. That's what he says. I believe him.
I believe him as well. I like these guys a lot. Are these War Machine figs, I assume?
They are, yeah.
Yes. I like these guys a lot. I think he did a great, I think these just really pop. I love the gray, for being all in very neutral tones, right? You have like a bone color and a copper color and brown and gray. He did a really nice job, and here's a little thing that I like. He has the little glowy eyes, which is this color green, whatever the case, and I think that works well. I would maybe like to see a little tiny white point in there, maybe there isn't, it's just getting washed out again. Little things like that tend to get washed out in the picture. But I love that he has the glowing eyes, and then the grass color actually matches the eye glow color. It's a little thing like that that just makes it so it's not a single point of color on it, and I think it makes the model very balanced.
Yeah, it's a good composition thing that, and I guess that we can talk again about basing in that regard too, that sometimes, not always, but sometimes that can be the thing that balances out the composition of your model. And what I mean by that is, we've talked about composition a couple times in the past where you don't want to have just one piece of the model that has a glaring, shocking, intense color on it. Because otherwise, it's all you look at. And that might have been the case if those eyes were the only point of that kind of bright, intense color. But because of that balance elsewhere, we can sort of draw our eyes back and forth between that and start seeing all the armor and then the oxidation and the dark blends of the lower cloak, etc., etc.
Yep, absolutely. And yeah, that's a good call on the oxidation. I love all the oxidation in the armor. I love how he's caught it more in some of the certain points around the ridges and such. I assume maybe nilic oxide with some white here or something like that. Like a good technique with nilic oxide is to put it on kind of heavy and then actually with a paper towel wipe it off. And that will take it off the flat surfaces and the high points, but leave it in the recesses. I don't know if that's what he did or not, but that's one technique you can use to do that. But I think these guys look great.
Yeah, it's a good-looking unit, I think.
I don't know anything about the game or how they work, but I'm sure they probably run forward and hit people with these axes. That's what I would assume their job is. They look like that's their plan.
You've just described every miniature game everywhere.
Well, sometimes things like to stand back and shoot things with some kind of not axe.
All right, I'll give you that.
I did a bunch of archers. Whatever, that's fine. We can skip that. And Victor did his. This is his Death Jester. So more diamond pattern, more work on the Harlequins. This is the older Death Jester. No, this is a converted. Oh, what is this guy? He's an old Eldar warrior, I don't remember what they were called, but they were one of the old.
Dark Reaper, perhaps.
Yeah, maybe that's what it was. And he's converted him
back into the days where I used. Yeah, it might be that.
The one bit of weird in this model that caught me off guard and it makes me go, why, is the hair. Like the top knot on this guy, at the end of it, it seems to fade and blend into the purple armor color, and I'm not sure why that is.
I don't know either. I suppose just a color transition he was going for. But yeah, I'm not sure. It does kind of make it the same color as that, and you kind of lose the edge. But maybe at the same time, that's what he was going for. Maybe he wanted it to kind of blend together there. I don't know. But again, more of that snow. More of our mysterious snow.
I want to believe it's static grass. I really do.
All right, we'll find out.
Same material anyway.
Victor, when you watch, tell us.
Okay, yeah, I can. And there's one picture, and you can kind of see little tufts of it, like at the bottom, like just individual strands, right there. So it's got to be.
Yep. Interesting. Must be like snowy grass. But
well, they can make that static grass in any color. Honestly, they could make it in purple and green if you.
Oh sure.
If you wanted to.
Well, for when you're fighting on that one world, that Avatar world, whatever, Pandora. There you go. I knew I'd get it. All right, and that about brings us up to the end of the month. I think we got one more snuck in here at the end of the month. Dead cat guy. Kieran, you want to talk about this guy? You have some snow on your face too.
Yeah, but in a different fashion. I do my snow by mixing a paste of really powdery stuff with glue and water, and then I slap it down in a blob, and then before it's setting and drying, I sprinkle some of that powder on top again to give it some fluffiness. But anyway, what you're looking at here is a Malifaux punk zombie, and whoever did the modeling of these things and the concept was clearly a fan of Prodigy, the band from the 90s, and wanted them to live on forever. So that was what he came up with.
There you go. Well, you can find inspiration in all places, I think. That's what that says.
Yeah, this model was a little bit of an experimentation in necrotic flesh, I think, and maybe it ended up a little bit darker green than I hoped, but that was what I was playing with.
No, I like it. I like I honestly think you're dead on where you should be there. I like that greenish hue in the flesh tone, but in the case of zombies or other sort of dead things, and I'm glad that it has this little cut right here. I very much like the little cut because I think like a bright red pink like you've got here really actually sets off well against the green flesh. It really makes it look nice.
Yeah, and then the only other texture experiment here was rusting up those katanas.
Now, what did you do for the rust? Is that just what was your strat here?
I have my own little blend of orange and an oxide brown, and I kind of just very loosely mix those together, so that I don't know if you can really see in this picture, but you can have flecks of browner area than oranger area because of that. I put it on a very rough brush and I just kind of stab it at the model. That's the best way to describe it. The technique of application.
Very good.
I think we missed some people.
Oh, did we? Did things get missed somehow?
Caleb Goodson's Tree Man, because I've got it down for 11 days ago. Paul Kerner's Goblin, and I apologize for mispronouncing your name.
Huh, let me refresh there. Yeah, somehow it cut out some models. I apologize, people.
And John Kerner's, like, Rat Guys.
All right, let's... Yeah, you know what? I noticed as well when I was going through my scroll at my end here that things were really sequenced very differently than how you scrolled through on yours. Google is messing with us.
Clearly. Okay, so let's see what... there's some more punk zombies. We didn't look at those. What else did we miss? Oh, there you go. Okay, yeah, there's John's rats. I apologize, people. I don't know what happened there. Clearly wasn't trying to short it. Google just was trying to cut out models. All right, let's take a look at John's rats.
Damn you, Google.
Yeah, so this was everything John painted so far, I believe.
Did he do this all in a month?
I think this was mostly this month, yeah.
Yeah. So he's gone with a little bit more reddish skin tone on his rats, which I'm kind of intrigued by. And it actually sets up nicely with a couple of the dudes that he's got in there, that he's gone with a pale green for the cowls. This guy up in the front corner of that unit. I like how that offsets. I'd actually prefer to see him do more of that sort of spectral green throughout the rest of the fellas, in fact.
Agreed. I really like the banner he has here of like the Dark Elf thing, like a captured Dark Elf banner with the Skaven symbol over it.
Actually, flip back to that other picture for a sec.
This one?
Oh, see, now it looks blue instead
But
of green.
this different unit.
Yeah.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, he's got a
Okay.
blue one, and then he's got like that pastel green guy.
I'm going to assume those are probably his unit champions or something, right? So they can stand out. Which,
Okay.
if that's the case, good choice. I like it. You can see them from a distance. Let's take a look back here at the... Yeah, because it looks like there's one guy who actually is allowed to have color. So I'm guessing that's the unit champion.
Yeah.
That's the guy in the Skaven world allowed to actually be colorful.
Actually, now that I think about it, I remember reading his comment here that he made the point of trying to make each guy a little bit individual, and whether that be in different shield bosses that they're coloring or coloring on their shields or weapons that they're carrying. That's kind of a cool thing to do, but I wonder if you'll keep that up when you're painting a Skaven Slave number 153, John.
The gauntlet has been thrown down.
And what kind of creative nonsense has you got going on here?
So here we got a couple of the Rat Ogres and our Poison Wind Globadier fiery thingy, Wind Mortar.
Yeah.
Packmaster got a Warp Fire Thrower on the other side. There we go, there's a Warp Fire Thrower.
Okay.
I like his green skin tone for the rats, for the giant, or for the Rat Ogres, I'm sorry. I think that's a good choice. It's very Hulk-like.
I think that's a glow off of his weapon casing, actually.
I think this one is. I think this guy is actually just green.
If it is,
Oh,
I think it's
okay.
a great glow effect. If it's just a flash off of his camera, that's a great flash off the camera.
Because there's. Okay, we'll pause here for a second. Let's talk about this.
Yes.
So, looking at the Rat Ogre on the left, his skin tone on the muzzle is the same kind of skin tone that he's using on the rest of his rats. It's sort of that reddish brown. But yet going down the arm, it turns green. Now, equally, over here on this right one, he's got his weapon casing that is glowing green, and he's spilling over some of that glow to the muzzle, whereas the arm that's hanging down is a different skin tone color. So, and if you look down on the leg, again, it's staying on this right one for a second. If you look down on the lower leg of that guy, he's getting some cast of glow, I assume, from a globe that this little dude is carrying.
I think this light is the tube, right?
Yeah, that could be
Or the
cast off from the
light
tube.
reflection of the tube.
Definitely.
Either way, the point is, I don't think he's trying to do green skin, is my point. And
Gotcha.
therefore, more commendations for this guy doing his object sourced light experiments on this.
Absolutely. Yeah, good work. And I know John just started painting here very recently. Like, I think this month was his first month of actually pledging and submitting.
That's
So,
nice.
yeah, great work, John, for your first month.
Promise.
Absolutely. I would say if I was going to give just a little piece of it, a couple little quick pieces of advice, being that I feel like I've painted a fair share of Skaven in my day. For your blood, I would refer to the Blood and Gore episode we recently did with Paul K. This is a bit bright. Like you might, and like if it's the picture, I apologize, but this I would, especially since it's almost the same color as the fur, and maybe that's supposed to be all coated in blood. I don't know. But I would say you probably want to have some darker in here. So take that red, mix it in with some Agrax or even some black in some way, and then do a lot of stippling and layers to get some darker points on here and stabs in. Because if it's going to be all bloody, there's going to be blood stays this red for about 5 to 10 minutes, and then once it's dried, that's it. It is now brown or purple.
Yeah.
And then up here on the flame, it's good. I like your color transition. It's good. You got 3 color transitions here in flame. Warp flame smoke is always a fun challenge to paint. What I would say is look at the various lines of green shades and washes and glazes, because if you kind of mix those together, you can get them to seep into the lower parts here. So this could have like green down in these lower parts without too much work at all, and it can kind of give it that feeling that like it's white on the outside where it's becoming the most smoky and still green, sort of fiery warp flame in the center.
Mm-hmm.
And don't be afraid to go brighter with your warp stone, warp flame, whatever, because his flame on this particular model looked kind of toned down. Whereas you've got, like, the brightest part in this model is the eye. I love the eye. I think it's great, but I think he could have gone a lot brighter with the warp stone because it's supposed to be bright and kind of glowy.
All right. But John, good work for your first month, sir, and that's quite a great effort for 1 month. I like it. That is a nice little starting Skaven force to be proud of. And at 2 points a model, you only got another 10 months before your army's ready. No,
So I want to fill you with all kinds of encouragement, John, because it's going to become a grind, and you need to feel happy about what you're doing there.
But that's okay. The best part about Skaven is, yeah, there's the grind of a lot of dudes, but there's a lot of fun stuff in there too, like the big rat ogres and your weapon teams and your doom wheels and all those kind of things. So just break it up. That would be my advice. Go, do 10 or 20 slaves, clan rats, then do a big piece, and then go back and forth. Keep it fresh. Okay. All right. What else did I miss here? Let's scan back down. Ryan Easterling. Okay, there we go.
Yeah, let's do that.
This big orc. This big, there's a dock, I think, right?
Is that a stock model, do you think? Or is that arm?
Let me see what he says.
That arm comes from somewhere else.
Favorite new orc model, the Pain Boy. So yes, I believe this is a stock model. Absolutely great model. I love the fingers that are needles. Like, this guy's a nightmare for sure. I love the look on his face and the little Noblar with the giant dropper. Like, what a wonderful model.
Oh, yeah.
That would be a snotling. Or just a regular goblin, honestly. By the size differential.
Yeah, you're right. It's 40k. They're probably snotlings, yeah.
Grots, they call them in that world.
Oh, there you go. That's right.
Whatever.
One little touch I noticed here that I like is these 2 injectors are full. You look at them. This one is half empty, and this one has been used some too. And so he used these very hard lines of the darker color, but still sort of in the shade, to give the impression that the vial inside has, been drained of some of its liquid, which I thought was very fun.
Yeah. So on that tip, actually, because it's in a clear cylinder, if you're willing to go try it out, Ryan, I think that you could benefit from doing some depth highlighting within that kind of stuff. If you look to, just as an example of a place to start, look at folks that are doing gemstones and other kind of reflective glass, and look up a couple references to see if you can toy around with that and make that look a little more convincing that it's in a glass clear tube. Try it out.
Absolutely, yeah. At the very least, you'd if if you don't want to go all that far, which I think you're absolutely right, I think painting like glass vials and things like that, you can do it. A lot. The gemstone tricks work. Just a simple gloss medium, or sorry, gloss varnish on the end of it. You know, just so it like you're trying to play with, make it so reflective that you use natural light to create the effect can also get you part of the way there.
And don't be afraid to put like the weird little ellipse at the top of where the liquid level is, because it is a cylinder. So if it's a clear tube that you're working with, you'd be able to see the ellipse of the top of the liquid through it.
Oh, back to science class, Alicia.
Yes. Sorry.
Very nice. My final note I would have for this is absolute kudos on the choice of the green. This is my favorite green color for orcs. This very like sort of mint, bright green. I love it. This is how orcs should be colored. So well done. I like bright orcs. I don't like brownie or yellow tone orcs. I like big, bright, mint green orcs charging across the battlefield, sticking you with giant Edward Scissorhands needle claws.
If that was coming at me, I wouldn't know whether to run or to giggle. Honestly,
sure.
That ridiculous claw hand.
That's the little guy on the back you got to be the most afraid of. All right. Let's see. Where is the tree man? Why will it not show me the tree man?
Oh.
Near the top.
I can pull it up over here if you're okay with that.
I am perfectly okay with that because I definitely want to make sure we look at his tree man. Let me see if maybe
he was after John Krieger and his rats.
Oh, there we go. I finally got the full submissions, I think. There we go. Finally decided to actually
25th.
All right. So, geez, I apologize, sir. I don't know what's going on there. So
24th and 25th is the dates you're looking for.
Yep. All right. So, start on the tree man. Okay. So, this is from Caleb and his tree man. Yep. Sorry, we almost missed it, Caleb. I even saw your comment beforehand. There you go. That's a nice straight-on view. Okay, so Caleb had asked before the show for some serious critiques. He wanted some real feedback. So here we go. Let's get the feedback on. This is a great model. I love the new tree man. I'm not sure about the beard. I'm not a fan of the beard, but that's okay. We all have our things about the new tree man we don't like. Kieran, I know you hate the sword.
I do hate the sword.
That's not a criticism. That's just a personal taste.
I want you to put that sword on your skull cannon.
If I had an extra one, I would do so. I'll order some extra sword tree man bits just for you.
Yeah.
So here's what I would say. He needs more tonal variety. The brown is too monotone. The bone is too monotone. The beard is too monotone. And one of the great parts about these new tree man models is that they are unbelievably well textured. Like I don't think I can actually zoom in here, but there you go. That'll really show it off. When you look at this, the bark, okay, it's so textured to look like real bark, and these branches and such coming up. So again, just like with the terrain we said earlier, a tree man should look rough. You know, if you look at a tree, it's not brown. If you get close to a tree and look at it, it's black and 5 different shades of brown and gray, and depending on the tree, you're going to see some red tones in there, lots of green tones in there, you know, if it's mossy, all those kind of things. And so you can really play with dry brushing on these guys and do, I think of like a Whoopi Womp technique where he does a lot of back and forth color shading back and forth through dry brushing and blending and stuff like that. And that's the kind of thing that really this tree man is served well by. So as you get up to the edges of the bark, you can look at making color transitions, have the deeper recesses darker color, the brighter or the upper edges, you know, lighter color, and you can just, what I would recommend is a rotating circle of dry brushes, and I would do them as you want a soft bristle brush for that, and you really want to keep your paint still kind of wet, so it's almost on bordering on a wet brush. Because you want to do heavy coats kind of at first, and then go up to just barely touching it and having to touch the model 50 times to get color on it, just back and forth and back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. and I would mix that with washes. So you're constantly building up a couple layers of dry brushing, washing it all back down with a shade to tonally align them. Build it up again, wash it back down again. And if you do that about twice, you're really going to start to feel like you're looking at a real tree because you're going to get all these tonal variations throughout it. So that would be my full suite there of feedback on the actual tree man piece himself. I think I've rambled enough on this for the moment.
Alicia, your go.
All right, awesome. I think that he took. It looks to me like you took our talk about glow effects to heart. I can see that you got some tonal differences in those glow effects, and you even put it on the base itself. Good job.
Which I love.
That being said, here's me tearing you up.
With love.
Yes, with love. I completely agree with what Vince has said so far. The easier step, instead of doing like 400 different colors, I mean, that's something that you can work up to. Think about it this way. Instead of just doing 1 or 2 coats of paint on everything, which is what it looks like in the picture. Now, it could be washed out, who knows. What you can do is think about it this way. Every color that you put on a model, pick 3 different paints for that one color. Your base, your midtone, and your highlight. And those are the 3 colors that you need in addition to your wash. So you got 4 colors that you're putting on for each color of paint on this model. And if you think about it that way and try and work in that direction, you'll get better. It'll take a little while, but once you kind of get into the mindset of base, midtone, highlight, well, okay, so if you're using the wash, it's base, midtone, shade, then highlight. You'll get those differences and effects. It'll give you depth, because right now you are flat, like just completely flat, with the exception of, like I said, like your glow effects.
Yep. Alrighty. Okay. With a subject like this, again, I'm going to just reinforce the idea of building up through a color spectrum. Caleb, I hope this doesn't frighten you, but I would say you need to do, for the bark of this tree, 4 to 5 different color layer gradations. On my tree man that I did 14 in a combination of various paint colors, selectively placed at times, generally lightly brushed over at other times. And that 14 includes a couple of stages of wash that I came back to just replenish the deeper depths of things as well. The benefit of this tree man as a model, though, is that it really is pretty heavily textured. But what you got to be mindful of when you're approaching these dry brush / wet brush / washes that the other two have talked about is controlling the amount of water that you have on your brush, and that is a skill in itself. It takes practice to do, but this is kind of one of the better models to do it on, because you don't have a great deal of flat, open surface that stretches out on you. So it is a good opportunity to learn those kinds of things, and I hope that you're willing to give it a go. Those are my thoughts.
Very good. Okay, I'll close on some highlights. Caleb, what I really like, I love your little flower pieces here, like the orange and yellow. And I like the color choices you've made as your base. Honestly, I think that what you do with this guy, you've got a great base here. You haven't gone wrong anywhere with this model. Like, honestly, you've laid down some really good work. And I think most of the techniques we've said, you can lay right on top of this and take it up and basically just go next level with it. Because you've laid down, I like your color choices. I like the glowing. I like everything you've done here. If you just sort of implement any selection of these techniques, you'll just take this guy right up to the next level because you've made a lot of good choices.
Yeah, I think I want to second that. I agree that you can keep going with what we discussed here. Layering, dry brushing, wet brushing over top of this. The only danger you're going to have is you'll probably have to go back in and do that green again afterwards.
Yes, that would be true.
So
Unless
if you're
you're
willing to
very
do
careful
that,
with the glow effects. But you'll probably have to replace some, like these old nodules and such. All right. But well done, Caleb. Caleb, good up. Here's Paul, and one of his submissions, his little goblin, which I love. This was for the Faces Challenge, and I absolutely love this goblin's face. I think he just knocked this out of the park. I love the choice to go to the pink nose.
yeah, the drunken goblin look. He's drunk
Yeah.
with power.
Yes, he's mad with shroom-based power. I don't think I have any feedback for Paul. I didn't have any when we reviewed it on the show. I just said this looks great. It's fantastic.
Yeah, one other thing that I picked up on here in this model is how he does his little skull pot. He's really gone from black to white with very little brown or earth tone in between. And he's done it pretty smoothly, so that's an achievement in itself that I think I'd like to learn from Paul. Dig it.
Absolutely. All right. Alicia, any thoughts on Paul's drunken power goblin?
I was just gonna ask, like, what is up with like the pink noses on the goblins? Like, because this is not the first time that I've seen this.
I just assume thin flesh, something like that. You know, noses turn red, even if they're goblins, I guess. I think it really sets off the model. You can see a little bit on his lips and the edge of his ears too, right? Like it's.
Yeah, I see. Yeah.
So I'm just assuming where the flesh gets thin, it kind of takes on a pinky tone because there's still blood underneath, assumingly.
I always assumed goblins had green blood, but again, that's just me. I don't know.
Who knows? I guess these bleed red. If you prick them, do they not bleed? All the same. They're not that different from us after all. Okay. Did I miss anyone else? Is there anything else that people saw that was missed in the rotation?
Don't think so.
I'm going to have a quick scan myself. See what we got. Oh, yeah, actually we had a Victor Case model right around the same time. She looked April 23rd for another of his Harlequins.
Oh, yes, absolutely. There you go. Yes. Sorry, I looked right over it. Yes, his Shadow Seer. Yeah, again. Oh, man. I mean, Victor, geez, your Harlequin. I don't know what to say about these. I mean, like, goodness sakes. He alters the checkerboard pattern on everyone. I love the faded checkerboard here on the yellow to brown. I mean, he is really he is just lavishing love on all of these models. And it shows.
He's just making us all look bad.
I mean, it's just I have no right to give you feedback on this, Victor. This is really just top-notch display quality work for an army, and so this is something you should be very proud of. This Shadow Seer is just absolutely stunning.
Am I going to be the bad guy? I'm going to say one thing.
Go ahead. I think after that we can sandwich any critique in there.
His patterning, I think he might have run into a little bit of the similar trouble that Rasmus did a while ago, where if we look at the Harlequin pattern on his leg, on his legging there in particular, it starts to change shape and it should start to change size as we get into behind the leg and behind the kneecap and down into the shins. And I think that's where it poses challenge on any painter, that it's tough to maintain the integrity as that surface changes shape. So again, nothing wrong with the effort on that, and I don't know that I'm trying to say in any way that I'd be able to do it either. But it's a pretty challenging thing to do, and I think it loses a little bit of its shape and integrity as it gets into there.
I don't know that I mind that so much because if you think about them as tights, if you
Yeah.
wear a tights with a pattern on them, as you
Hmm.
move and as your knee bends, the pattern does enlarge and shrink depending on how your leg moves because it's stretching.
Oh, I agree. It does, and that's what I'm looking for in here, but I'm not seeing that as much as I'd like to. I don't think that
Uh,
it reflects that. That's what I'm trying to say.
okay.
But anyway, tough to do. I'm not
No,
saying
that's
I can do it.
absolutely unbelievably challenging models, and he really took it to the next level. Love the color palette too, like yellow, pink, and blue. Not the first three colors most people would go to on a single model, and it's executed here with aplomb.
Hmm.
Okay, very good. Let's see. So then I think I saw one other one up here that we missed. The Death Jester. Ah, yes, here we go. And then Victor's this guy, who again is I think an older. Is this a new guy or is this an older guy? I don't know.
That's pretty. That one's pretty fresh. Yeah.
Okay, so this is another one of the Death Jesters, and again, just absolutely great. Really smooth, great color transitions. Like when I look at this cloak back here on this side, this is great stuff. I really like the color transition back here on this surface. It has a really nice cloth feel to it.
Yeah, and he's gone all the way to white with the great highlight on there.
Yep. Well, I think, and Victor, I think so. There's not much more we can say about his stuff, but I'll say, if you're interested in Victor's stuff and you want to see how he did all that, he's doing a nice thing called the Path of the Harlequin, where he plotted out painting the whole army. He's kind of walking through everything, and he has tutorials on all the pieces and painting guides and all that. It's definitely worth checking out his channel. Just look him up, Victor Case on here, and he has wonderful tutorials for all these models he did. I really highly recommend them. I think they're just fantastic. Um, and yeah, so then I think, here we go. Nick Fency had some word bearers. Nice little 40K word bearers there. Now, does the fire come for their bases, or did he do that?
No, that's green stuff sculpting to get those little fire bursts.
All right. Well, that is really good. That's I think that's a great basing thing. Lighting stuff on fire. I love it.
Yeah, it's a cool idea to put in there. I assume it's somewhat thematic for that type of Marine Army. Again, my ignorance about 40K shines through there, but I think that must have some kind of tie-in.
I would say probably so. Good looking scenery too. Let me say that. Like they're really in a nice setting. It's a great looking. Like clearly that's quite a game board there on there.
Mm-hmm.
So good work there, Nick. Looking great. Don't have much to say about it other than those are well done. And if you did craft each of those flames out of green stuff, then extra kudos to you, my friend.
Yeah.
The one guy in the blue kind of bugs me though. I mean, everything else looks awesome, totally good, loving him. But the guy in the blue, he just kind of sticks out like a sore thumb. Like, I think because he's got so many warm tones on everybody else, and then this one guy is wearing the blue cape, which is a cool toad, and just my
Well,
eye
that's
goes
why
right
he's
to
out
him.
front. So he's the guy that gets shot first. The rest of his friends told him he looks really good in blue, knowing that it would attract the enemy's eye and they would all shoot him first. I mean, these guys are chaos, so they're evil. You know.
Yeah.
I'm willing to bet that guy is the new pledge to the word bearers. So he gets to wear a different uniform than the regular brothers on that day. That's my thoughts.
All right. All right, we'll go with
But
that.
I agree with you that I think if what you were trying to do, Nick, was to try to make a champion or some guy unique, different than the others, might not have gone blue. I think you could have picked something else that still stayed in the same color spectrum, but yet be different than the yellowish robes of the other guys.
Maybe like a bright white that's still in the brown tone, right? So an ivory or something like that.
Yeah.
Where it's still a warm white.
Well, he's got an ivory, he's got an orange, he's got a yellow and a black. and a regular kind of darky brown, it looks like.
Oh, well, yeah, I guess those all are different. Now that I look at this whole photo. Oh, well, I don't know what you're doing, Nick.
But you're doing good work. Not that I'm trying to close out on my stuff. I just want to talk real quick about two things. So this is a fun thing to do. This was for the Blood and Gore Challenge again, and so I just wanted to touch on it real quick because it's all this is just completely cobbled together out of tons of, I don't know, a bunch of different extra bits and stuff. It was made as a unit filler. It was just a lot of fun to make, and I just wanted to comment on it to say, like, you know, unit fillers are fun, and if you're ever sort of thinking, man, I don't want to paint a lot more models, well, hey, you know, one of the great things is doing weird unit fillers out of all the extra bits you might have lying around. And this is an example of that, as this is like the cauldron from a mortis engine and some blades and pieces from a Cauldron of Blood and the statue from Cauldron of Blood and some torches from some random thing and spear shafts, and that's the Medusa shrine, and then a Slanesh banner on top. So, I mean, you can just, you know, whatever, go nuts. Right? Like, stick it all together.
And was that your first try at doing purple flames?
Yes, it was, actually. That was my first try at doing purple flames, yeah. I welcome feedback.
That's a fun idea to do purple flame. I imagine you don't really approach it very differently than you would regular flame, like keeping in mind that the hottest part is the bottom, so within the center, and it should be as close to white as you can. But I guess instead of moving towards red, you move towards purple and through all those color tones instead.
Yep, exactly. It's kind of washed it out, but there was actually a whitewash in here that, like, so in a lot of these cracks, it's actually white in between the rocks to kind of get it back.
Should be.
Yep.
It's good.
But a lot of fun there. And then just my little girl here, who I'm just clicking on because I love her. And again, for the Blood and Gore thing, she's the Blood Rack Medusa plus a Witch Elf plus the Vargeist wings. All I really say is the only thing I really clicked on her for was to show the eyes, and that is to say this is a takeoff of the Witch Elf. There's a unit of Witch Elves in the in the G-Dub line that has this sort of eye tattoo pattern, and I love it. And it's when you get to models like this, you know, don't always have to stick to normal eyes. So in this case, she has these weird bright white eyes with the dark recesses around them and the, you know, tattoo stuff. And so you don't have to always think of eyes as just being the eyeball. Like, you can do sort of a whole thing around them and, you know, set them off in that way. There you go.
Yeah, it's a fun model. And again, creative with conversions. I expect no less from you.
Now you know if it's over an inch tall. You know my rule. All right.
Where'd you get the head from?
Just a Witch Elf.
It's just a Witch Elf?
Mm-hmm. Just a Witch Elf head, yeah.
Huh, okay.
She actually fit right on there. Like, the neck of the head of the Medusa is made pretty much in the same way as the Dark Elf or the Witch Elf necks. So didn't even take any putty or anything. I mean, it fit right on as though it was designed for it. So.
Well, I just never seen that style of head, and I was confused as to where it came from, because I thought I identified the wings, and like I know the body. Totally know the body.
Sure.
Yeah.
You may have had some experience with that in a previous month that we reviewed. You'll notice in this other one I cleverly turned the mirror around so I didn't have to paint the mirror part. I used the back of the mirror as my thing.
Yeah, I saw that.
That was my clever solution to that one. So there you go. All right, and I think that brings us to the end of April.
Yeah. Well, again, a solid ream of work, a good body of work by our PMP involved folks. But before we wrap up, we should talk about the challenge that we've decided on for May.
Yes, absolutely.
And reinforce that. So to talk about that, what we have decided to do for the first time this month is just throw out a thematic challenge to anybody that wants to be involved in it. By all means, you're still going to carry on what you're doing with pledges and submissions And if you want to show us works in progress, as you usually do with the PMP, please continue to do that with no interruption. But if it so happens that our theme for the month tickles your fancy or inspires you to do something, then we invite you to do something for that and stuff it into a different tab that Vince has created on the PMP. And this is for, what did you title it, Vince?
Monthly submission, I believe, or monthly contest. I'll get you the exact
monthly
wording.
Contest. Okay. All right. So theme for this month, theme for this month, for the month of May, is the idea of fair but foul, and that's really all we're going to give you. And you can interpret that however you feel like. Your mind, however your mind works, you work it out.
Exactly. That's right. Fair in the rules, but foul in its cost or on the table, or fair in its look but also foul, or fair but fouled because it's all dirty now. Hey, whatever. Like, there's 10 more interpretations I haven't thought of. If you think it fits, it fits.
Actually, one wacky thing that I'm going to credit to John, who spoke up earlier and piped in about that. His interpretation of fair but foul was a carnival fair and a fowl being a chicken.
Absolutely. So if you happen to paint, say, like the carnival freak that bites the heads off chickens, that would be a completely appropriate model.
Yeah. So I'm very curious to see what the community is going to come up with and share with us in there. So an extra thing for not even an extra thing. If it's one of your submissions for the month, great. If that fits with it, stick it in both places. And if you're doing something extra, then that's even more wonderful. Absolutely. But I'll love to see it.
Yep, we hope it inspires. At the end of the month, we'll do a little poll, and it is a contest, so we'll have the community vote and choose a winner out of everybody who submits. But everybody who submits, hey, I would love to see it. I think they're all going to be awesome, and we'll do it. We'll do another one each month, assuming that the feedback is good and we actually get people submitting. And very much looking forward to see what we get at the end of May. Fair but foul. So monthly contest tab, people. Let's see it happen.
So Alicia, throwing down the challenge at you as well. You gotta do something.
Okay.
You got a whole month. There's gonna be something that comes across your desk that fits that.
Actually, I am working on something that's a carnival.
Well, see, there you go.
I just do that.
Perfect. Hey, whatever. It doesn't have to be something special or different. If you're already working on it, you're already working on it. That's fine. Lucky you. Awesome. It fits. I believe I have my submission finally down, by the way, Kieran. I'm not gonna tell you what it is yet, but I finally know what I'm doing. This one I think you'll be less offended by than my Sky Earth non-metallic metal.
Well, I sure hope so.
But anything is a step up from the skill cannon. So there you go.
It is. You're right about that.
All right. Before we close out, do we want to say what our favorites were for the month?
Sure.
All right. What were our favorites for the month?
Okay, do you got one in mind, Vince? Are you queuing it up? What do you got?
Oh, I can go to it, or we can just say it. Yeah, I can go back to screen sharing and queue it up. Absolutely. But everybody, let me do that real quick. All right, there we go. Back to screen share. I am back to the beginning of the month, and I think that this time, hopefully, we should have all the photos. So who's got a pick for me?
Well, my fave of the month is going to The Solitaire by Victor Case.
Was that?
That was.
That's the shadow.
Oh, you got it in the bottom. Yeah.
This guy.
That's our guy. That's The Solitaire. So, convincing things for me that brought that to the fore was he. Well, we talked about it already very, very briefly before, but he's incorporated three things that are really attractive here, and that is selling the idea of the spectral transition of this guy, both on the trailing parts of his cloak and the forward-facing palm that's facing out. He's done his Harlequin pattern in a couple of different spots that are exposed on the model. And then the third thing is his dark to light transition throughout the robe and the cloak itself. All those things together, very masterfully done, and makes me want this model.
I like it. Absolutely. Good choice. Victor, great work. Alicia, what about you? What's your pick? Do you need a moment to think about it?
I'm going to go with the Pain Boy.
Ah, the Pain Boy. All right.
I got to go with the Goblin. You know, when there's a Goblin, I got to go with it.
That's fair.
Because it's awesome.
I think he managed to fall off my list this time, of course. It's problematic. But anyway, yes, the Goblin Pain Boy, the guy with the needles that we covered earlier. He was a great model. Absolutely.
Yeah, it totally makes me want to buy some 40K just so I can put them on like normal bases and stick them in a unit.
Yeah, that's a fun model for sure.
I'm going to give my shout out to Paul K here for this Slaughtermaster. I love a good drippy, bloody mess when it looks appropriate, and here it really does. This dude is just great from top to bottom, from the rusty blades to the strandy blood to the sprayed on, blood spatter. I think any ogre army should be proud to have this guy as their Slaughtermaster. So there you go. That's my choice. All right.
Always pretty pleased with the quality that we get out here at this PMP.
Absolutely.
There's a lot of talent out there in the world.
Great work, everybody. Any closing thoughts as we before we sign off?
My one closing thought is I'm a little bit worried that somehow at your end Google jumbled up what it gathered together for the end of the month submit. And I think I'm further worried that because when I loaded it up at my end as well, it seemed to miss out on some things as well. So I'm concerned that we missed some people's submissions here in our show today. So please let us know if we did, and we'll try to bring it to the attention for our next month's show.
Yeah, I'll throw my email in the comments of this. If for any reason I missed your model or we missed your model because Google cut it out, please tell me. I will make sure we pull it aside and review it next month for sure. I do not want to have anybody whose hard work they put up there get missed. So if that happened, please tell me. We will get to it.
Yep. But otherwise, no other thoughts.
Very good.
Keep doing
Alicia?
it, people.
Okay, very good. Nothing. I think she went Cylon at the end. So I think you're avoiding your Cylon-ness.
Yes, that's what I'm doing.
Oh,
there you go.
There it is.
By your command.
Give us a robot queen wave on the way out.
Yes, your base are mine.
Very good. And with that, we will sign off. Thank you, everybody, for watching. Thank you to everybody who submitted. Keep up the great work. Keep hobbying. Keep providing feedback and ask questions. That's what the community's here for. If you run into anything, we're all here to help. We look forward to another month of great submissions next month. Have a great May, everybody. See you in June.